Hello everybody, I'm your host Mr. Wildcat and welcome to a very special video. Today we are paying tribute to the good, bad, and ugly of one of the greatest athletes to have ever played American football, OJ Simpson. Okay? So this is kind of a controversial subject at hand because and everybody has a different opinion of him. Some of you have a positive review, some of you have a negative view, and some of you have a mixed view. Regardless of what it is, I have shut I am turning off commenting for this video because I'm not here to cause a war, and I'm not here to cause bickering and bickering. Today we're basically just here to pay tribute to an individual who has who has spent time here on Earth. Okay, so that's basically what we're here to do. Okay, so um, so basically OJ. Okay, his full name is Orenthal James. Okay, he was nicknamed OJ as a way to make it sound better to say. And because of his particular nickname, he eventually got nicknamed the Juice. Okay, OJ, orange juice. Pretty clever, huh? Okay. So Orenthal James was born July 9th, 1947, and died earlier this week on Wednesday, April 10th, 2024. An American football player, an actor, and a broadcaster. And he was also a very his professional. Let's say this. Once a popular figure with the American public, his professional success was later overshadowed by his trial and controversial acquittal for the murders of former wife Nicole Brown and her friend Ron Goldman in 1994. Okay, we'll get there eventually. Okay, so basically, O.J. Simpson, he had played college football for USC. That's why we're wearing this shirt today. Okay, University of Southern California. He played there from. Let's see. He played there for the 1967 and 1968 seasons. Okay, he played there for 2 years. And he eventually wound up winning a Heisman Trophy as a senior and was selected first overall by the Buffalo Bills in the 1969 National Football League American Football League draft. So he got drafted into the Bills during their final year under the American Football League and eventually took the Bills into the newly created merger of the National Football League. So basically, the Buffalo Bills, when they were first created, I think it was in 1959 or 1960, they were part of the newly created American Football League. And the National Football League eventually decided to merge with the American Football League, especially after when the Super Bowl came to be. So most of the okay, so basically all of those who are part of the original American Football League, which are the Chargers, the Raiders, the Jets, the Dolphins, the Bills, the Patriots, the Oilers. Um, maybe anybody? If I'm, wait a second. Okay, these particular teams, they were all part of the American Football League, and they wind up when the AFL and NFL merged together. All those teams became part of the American Football Conference. Okay. Now, because there were a few more teams in the NFL than there were from the AFL, a couple of teams from the NFL wind up going over into the AFC to even out the leagues. Okay, so that's why like you see all these teams that are part of the NFC, the Rams, the Giants, the Redskins, the Cowboys. Um, who else? Um, the Lions, the Packers, the Vikings, the Bears. Like they were all part of the original National Football League. Okay, so they all became part of the National Football Conference. Okay. In fact, in order to even out both conferences out, three teams from the original NFL, the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Cleveland Browns, and the Baltimore Colts. They wind up moving over into the AFC. Okay? So that's the story of that. So basically, OJ was evident. Let's talk about his time at USC. Okay? So basically, in an effort to stay out of the, he had a childhood friend who was injured in the Vietnam War and encouraged OJ to stay out of the military and having to go fight in Vietnam. So he decided to enroll in the City College of San Francisco in 1965, where he wound up playing both ways as both a running back and defensive back, and was named to the Junior College All-American team as a running back. Okay. After 2 years for the City College of San Francisco, he wound up going to the big leagues. Okay, he was offered a spot on the University of Utah Utes football team, but instead passed it up for the University of Southern California. After all, he was a native Californian. Well, OJ technically was born in San Francisco, so he's not technically not a native Southern Californian. Might I add that one thing I learned in geography class in college is that, okay, and I can't believe it took college to recognize this one. Northern and Southern California are completely different. These guys do not like each other, okay, and that's why, like LA versus San Francisco, these are very fierce rivals because the northern and southern parts of the state do not get along together, and there have been rumors about the two of them wanting to split. Don't ask me how that would work. Okay, but well. So anyway, I'm saying he was offered a spot to play for the University of Utah, but instead he passed it up to go play for USC. And my oh my, did he wind up playing a very he wind up being a huge legend for USC. So he was admired as a young football fan. He played running back for the Trojans for head coach John McKay in both the 67 and 68 seasons. Simpson led the nation in rushing both years under McKay. 1967, he had 13 touchdowns and 1,543 yards. In 1968, he improved to 1,880 yards on 383 carries. Okay. As a junior in 1967, he was a close runner-up for the Heisman Trophy, balancing the quarterback Gary Bibon of UCLA. In that year's Victory Bell rivalry game between the teams, that's one thing. If you guys go back and check my video on the 100th anniversary of the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum, which we did last fall, to commemorate the 100th anniversary of the Coliseum, one thing we did mention, okay, was the fact that USC and UCLA, they wind up playing, they both play their home games at the Coliseum from about 1928 through 1981. And then in 1982, around the same time the Raiders came to LA, UCLA moved over to the Rose Bowl. They signed a long-term lease with the Rose Bowl in Pasadena. Okay, so these guys, and this was one of the most memorable games to have ever come out of the first 100 years of the Coliseum. So basically, it's a victory bell. It's a USC-UCLA rivalry. USC was down by 6 points in the fourth quarter with under 11 minutes remaining. On their own 36, USC backup quarterback Toby Page called an audible on 3rd and 7. Simpson's 64-yard touchdown run, which can be seen throughout YouTube. They want to tie in the score. The extra point put the USC Trojans over the Bruins by 21-20. Coincidentally, the final score. This was the biggest play and was regarded as one of the greatest football games of the 20th century. Okay. Another dramatic touchdown that same game, the subject of Arnold Friedberg oil painting, OJ Simpson breaks the daylight. Okay? So, in the 1968 season, Simpson rushed for 1,709 yards and 22 touchdowns, earning the Heisman Trophy and the Maxwell Award and the Walter Camp Award. He held the record for the Heisman's largest margin of victory for 51 years, defeating runner-up Leroy Keys by 1,750 points. In the Rose Bowl on New Year's Day, USC wound up facing top-ranked Ohio State. For many, many years, it has been noted, Rose Bowl had a tradition of featuring the conference champions of both the Pac and the Big Ten. With the Pac ceasing operations in about 2.5 months, the Rose Bowl is eventually going to be turned into a member of the expanded college football playoff, which we will do more videos about that later on. But for the sake of this video, OJ Simpson USC was the number 2 football program in the country that year. In Simpson's senior year, they took on the number 1 seed Ohio State. Simpson ran for 171 yards, including an 80-yard touchdown, but unfortunately, USC wound up losing to Ohio State 27-16. Okay. After finishing up at USC, OJ Simpson was the very first pick in the 1969 AFL-NFL Common Draft, which was held that year by the AFL's Buffalo Bills. The Bills had finished the 1968 season with a 1-12-1 record, 1 win, 12 losses, and 1 tie. They took O.J. Simpson, but he demanded the largest contract in professional sports history, $650,000 over 5 years. This led to a standoff with Ralph Wilson, who owned the Buffalo Bills for several years. Simpson threatened to become an actor and skip professional football if he did not get what he was wanting. Wilson eventually agreed to pay Simpson. So this must explain, so the Bills unfortunately didn't really do very well under O.J. Simpson. And it was clearly evident that O.J. Simpson was they must have been their only key player. And just by reading what I just read right now, this must explain why the Bills had struggled under O.J.'s run, because O.J. had hoarded up the Bills' entire payroll. Okay? Not very smart to do, especially when you're trying to compete. Okay? So they took, in O.J.'s first year, the Bills improved. They wound up going 4-10 in the Bills' final season with the AFL. 1970, the AFL and NFL officially merged together, and it was the first year under the Buffalo Bills' tenure in the AFC East, which they share with the New England Patriots, New York Jets, and the Miami Dolphins. And up until 2002, they wound up sharing with the Colts as well. First the Baltimore Colts, then the Indianapolis Colts. Okay. They went 3-10-1 in 1970. Then they fell to 1-13 in 71. Okay, the best is once the Bills moved into their new stadium, Rich Stadium is what it was called when it first opened up. The Bills had a very successful. They actually pulled off some winning seasons for the first time since the first Super Bowl. They went 9-5 in 1973 and 1974. The only time the Bills actually went to the playoffs under O.J. Simpson's tenure was in 1974, where they finished second place in the AFC East, most notably right behind the Miami Dolphins. They lost their first round game to the Pittsburgh Steelers and Terry Bradshaw by a score of 32-14. Okay? Simpson entered professional football with high expectations but struggled in his first 3 years, averaging only 622 yards per season. They had a coach at the time, John Rock, not wanting to build an offensive but one running back. He assigned Simpson to do blocking and receiving duties at the expense of running the ball. Okay. Rock wound up resigning. They brought in Harvey Johnson. Johnson devised a new offense for Simpson. Simpson was still ineffective that year. And then Johnson got fired, and they brought in Lou Saban. All right. Unlike Rock, Saban made Simpson the centerpiece of the Bills' offense, and that's when they started to. That's when OJ started to go with the flow. Rushed for 1,000 yards for the first time in his career in the 1972 season. In 1973, he became the first player to break the highly coveted 2,000-yard rushing mark with 2,003 total rushing yards with 12 touchdowns. This had taken place in their matchup against the New York Jets in Shea Stadium in New York City. Okay. Up until the 1983 season, the New York Jets played their football games at Shea Stadium, which was the primary home of the New York Mets. And then after the 83 season, the Jets moved in with the New York Giants in New Jersey as secondary tenants. Okay, and they've been together ever since. Okay. Simpson broke the mark during the last game of the season against the New York Jets with a 7-yard rush. That same game also saw Simpson break Jim Brown's single-season rushing record of 1,863 yards. Okay. Let's see. Simpson made his first and only playoff appearance during the 1974 season in a divisional game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Simpson rushed for 49 yards on 15 attempts and caught a touchdown pass, but the Bills lost 32-14. Okay. Simpson again led the league with rushing in 1976, rushing for 1,503 yards and 8 touchdowns. He had the best game of his career during that season's Thanksgiving game against the Detroit Lions on November 25th. Okay. Simpson's career with the Bills. Okay. Simpson wound up getting injured during 1977 season, which resulted in him. It resulted in him only playing 7 games that year. Okay. And of course, this one. And after the 77 season, before the 78 season started, Simpson got traded to San Francisco, playing for the 49ers during his final 2 years, and in exchange, the Bills wound up receiving a series of draft picks. Simpson played in San Francisco during those 2 years, rushing for 1,053 yards and 4 touchdowns. His final football game was on December 16, 1979 at the Atlanta Fulton County Stadium against the Atlanta Falcons, where they lost 31-21, the final score. Okay. So let's take a look at, all right. Let's take a look at all the different awards that OJ Simpson had won throughout the years. All right. In addition to so basically he played for the Bills and the 49ers during the NFL, and he retired after the 79 season. All right, so he was the NFL's most valuable player in 1973, NFL's Offensive Player of the Year in 1973. He was a 5-time first-team All-Pro from 72 through 76. He was 5-time Pro Bowl, so he got to play in 5 consecutive Pro Bowl games between 1972 and 76. He was a 1969 American Football League All-Star, 1973 recipient of the Burt Bell Award, Associated Press Athlete of the Year for 1973, 3-time UPI AFC Offensive Player of the Year, which was awarded in 1972, 73, and 75. Four-time NFL rushing yards leader for 72, 73, 75, and 76. Two-time NFL rushing touchdowns leader for 73 and 75. 1975 recipient of the NFL scorer leader. National Football League's 1970s All-Decade Team. The National Football League's 75th Anniversary All-Time Team. The National Football League's 100th Anniversary All-Time Team. He's also on the Buffalo Bills Wall of Fame. He is also, his number 32 for USC is officially retired in the LA Memorial Coliseum. National champion for 1967. The 1968 Heisman Trophy. 1968 Maxwell Award. 1967 Walter Camp Award. Two-time UPI Player of the Year. United Press International College Football Player of the Year Award for 67 and 68. The 1968 Sports Nation Player of the Year. Two-time unanimous All-American for 67 and 68. Two-time first-team All-Pac-8 for 67 and 68. Yes, it was known as the Pac-8 until 1978 when Arizona and Arizona State would join. And then it was the Pac-10 from 1978 through 2010. Then it became the Pac-12 from 2011 through 2023. Okay, or 2024, is probably what you want to say. Last but not least, the 1966 recipient of the National Junior College Athletic Association Award. Overall, in the National Football League, he had finished with a grand total of 11,236 rushing yards, rushing an average 4.7 yards per play, rushing 61 rushing touchdowns, 203 receptions, 2,142 receiving yards, and 14 receiving touchdowns. So he is responsible for 75 touchdowns during his 10 years in the National Football League. Okay. After his time with the Bills and the 49ers were done, OJ Simpson would go on to star. He would be a NFL football commentator for both Monday Night Football on ABC as well as the NFL on NBC. Okay, which had the rights to the NFC football package through the end of the 1997 season. Okay. In addition to that, he would also go on to serve in an acting career. Okay, he became a professional actor before playing professional football, appearing in the first episode of Medical Center while negotiating his contract with the Buffalo Bills. He also, while he was in the NFL, he also starred in 1977 television miniseries Roots. Okay, that one, okay, one of the highest rated, the highest rated miniseries to have ever aired on television, one of the highest rated events in television history overall. Okay, a huge, epic cast. John Amos, Ed Asner, Lloyd Bridges, Chuck Connors, Sandy Duncan, George Hamilton, Burl Ives. Oh my God, this is a very long list. Okay, you also have LeVar Burton. All right, the guy from Reading Rainbow. He was the main character in that. That wound up airing 8 consecutive nights, and it was a month. Let's see, holds the record for the third highest rated episode of it, the final episode of the Roots miniseries. Holds the record for the third highest rated episode of any type of television series, second most watched overall series finale in television history. Okay. He also did the 1974 film The Klansman, the 1974 thriller The Towering Inferno, the 1976 film The Cassandra Crossing, the 1978 film Capricorn 1. Okay. He also starred in a series of Hertz commercials, Hertz as in rental cars, from 1975. He sometimes intentionally chose non-positive roles, of course. Let's see. What else did he do? He also did. He's mostly famous in his acting for playing in all three installments of the Naked Gun film trilogy, 1988, 1991, 1994. He starred alongside Leslie Nielsen, Priscilla Presley, and George Kennedy. All right. He played Nordberg, who was a detective of the police squad, along with George Kennedy and Leslie Nielsen. Okay. He also, according to Arnold Schwarzenegger, Simpson was considered by director James Cameron to play the eponymous character in the 1984 film The Terminator. Okay. When Schwarzenegger was cast as Kyle Reese. But Cameron ultimately cast Schwarzenegger as the Terminator, while Simpson eventually had no involvement in the film. Okay. He also, like I said before, he did football commentary for Monday Night Football in the NFL and NBC. He also appeared in the audience of during the second season of Saturday Night Live, and he hosted an episode of the show during the third season. Okay. Let's see. He was married. Let's see. A couple of times they were married. So, married Margaret Whitley in 1967. They wound up having 3 kids: Arnell, Jason, and Aaron. All right. Unfortunately, in 1979, Aaron drowned in the family swimming pool and died at the age of 2. Okay, and as of today, Jason and Arnell are the 2 sole survivors of that marriage. Okay. Simpson met Nicole Brown in 1977 while she was working as a waitress at the Beverly Hills nightclub called the Daisy. Although he was still married to his first wife, Simpson began dating Brown. Simpson and Margaret would divorce in March of 1979. Simpson and Brown were married on February 2nd, 1985, 5 years after the retirement from professional football. They wound up having 2 children: Sidney, who was born in 1985, and Justin, who was born in 1988. Both are still alive to this date, by the way. Marriage lasted 7 years, during which Simpson pleaded no contest to spousal abuse in 1989. Brown filed for divorce in February of 1992, citing irreconcilable differences. In 1993, after divorce, Brown and Simpson made an attempt at reconciliation, but according to Sheila Weller, they were a dramatic, flirtatious, mutually obsessed couple before they were married, but after they divorced in 1972 and after they reconciled. Okay. After his controversial trial in 1995, he began a relationship with Christy Prody, which lasted for 13 years. At the time of the relationship started, Prody was 19 years old, working as a cocktail waitress. By the time the relationship ended, Prody stated that she often feared for her life during the relationship. That is no surprise whatsoever. Okay. OJ Simpson. Okay. We last remember seeing OJ Simpson after. Let's talk about this later. Okay. Let's get to the trouble, shall we? Oh dear. Here comes the controversial shit. June 12, 1994, Nicole Brown Simpson and her friend Ron Goldman were both found stabbed to death outside Nicole's condo in the Brentwood neighborhood of Los Angeles. Simpson, who had pleaded no contest to a domestic violence charge against Brown in 1989, was an immediate person of interest in their murders. After police gathered all the evidence, charges were filed and a warrant was signed for Simpson's arrest. Okay, Simpson had agreed to surrender on June 17th, but unfortunately, he never showed up. While searching for Simpson, one of the news copters, as well as a bunch of LAPD officers, they spotted a white 1993 Ford Bronco SUV, a vehicle owned and being driven by former teammate and longtime friend Al Collins. Okay, Simpson apparently was in the back of the seat of the car with a gun to his head. He wanted to go see his mother, and basically, this pursuit right here turned into one of the highest-rated television events in television history, garnering about 95 million viewers overall. It's also one of the most, and this is probably considered, despite his long-time success in the NFL and USC in the 60s and 70s, this has probably got to be his key moment in the spotlight. The one moment that he's definitely going to be remembered for is the Bronco chase, okay? Now, I was about 7 years old when the Bronco chase happened out, but I was way too young to know or understand what was going on. I sure as hell don't remember watching it. Parents wouldn't let me watch it. Okay? And these are the same people that wouldn't allow me to watch The Simpsons out of all shows, for Christ's sakes. Tells you how fucked up they are. Although I do remember, one thing I do remember, okay, is that we wound up seeing all these different clips and stuff of OJ Simpson in the courtroom and the OJ Simpson trial going on. But of course, being too young to understand what was going on, and not really knowing what was going on, it didn't really hit a bell to me until many years later. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, after he wound up fighting, he took the car to his mother's residence, or to his residency, and basically, let's see, he eventually surrendered to police by the end of the night. All right, TV stations, they wound up interrupting coverage of the 1994 NBA Finals to broadcast the incident live. With an estimated audience of 95 million people, the event was described as the most famous ride on American shores since Paul Revere's. All right. So Simpson was now arrested for murder, for double homicide. Pursuit, arrest, and trial of Simpson was once one of the most publicized events in American history. They even put cameras in the courtroom, all right, throughout his trial. The trial would start. Okay. He would remain in prison from his arrest in June of 1994 until late 1995. Okay, his defense team included Johnny Cochran, Robert Kardashian, Robert Shapiro, and F. Lee Bailey. Marcia Clark at the time was the lead prosecutor for the state of California, and she wound up leading the prosecution in this trial. Trial was characterized as the trial of the century because of its international publicity, likened to that of Sacco and Vanzetti and the Lindbergh kidnapping. Okay, accumulated after it wound up running for several months. And on October 3rd, 1995, the jury wound up rendering a verdict. Okay, we thought that it would take at least a day or two for the jury to come up with their decision, but the verdict came out rather extremely quickly and unanimous, to where the jury wound up it rendered a verdict of not guilty for the two murders on October 3rd, 1995. An estimated 100 million people nationwide tuned in to watch or listen to the verdict announcement. Following Simpson's acquittal, no additional arrests of convictions related to the murders were made. Immediate reaction to the verdict was known for its division along racial lines. A poll of Los Angeles County residents showed that most African Americans felt justice had been served by the not guilty verdict, while majority of the whites and Latinos opinion that it would not. According to a 2016 poll, 83% of white Americans and 57% of black Americans believe that Simpson actually committed the murders. All right? And one thing I'm going to say about this, about the verdict, it was revenge for Rodney King and a lot of other things. The jury, they were also afraid that by making Simpson a guilty man would have caused another round of riots. The night after Rodney King was beaten up and a video was shown, there was a video recorded of LAPD officers beating Rodney King on the streets. And of course the video was shown in court, and it was also shown on nationwide television. And when the case came out with a no guilty verdict against the LAPD officers involved, it caused a very long, very dangerous, and very expensive riot that caused huge scars throughout the entire city. Being afraid of having another riot like the Rodney King riots, aside from the fact that there was a member or two in the jury that turned out to have been a member of the Black Panthers who used this verdict in order to get back at LAPD. The jury, and noting that there was no way a guilty verdict would have happened with these particular people on the jury, and having the fact that that the jury had been secluded from society for almost a whole year. Okay, the only time these guys see each other are in the courtroom. They're not allowed to talk to each other. They're not allowed to discuss anything with each other. And when they're done, they go into these hotel rooms by themselves, and they're not allowed to discuss anything with each other. And they're also not allowed to watch the news or anything relating to the OJ Simpson trial. It must suck to be been part of that jury. But they wanted to go home, and realizing that a guilty verdict was not going to happen with certain members of that jury the way that they were, and wanted to go home after so long, they said, fuck it. OJ, you're a free man. Not the best way, in my opinion, to run a jury. All right? But enough of that. But that was not the last we would hear of this. Okay? In 1996, the families of Ron Goldman and Nicole Simpson, they filed suit against OJ Simpson. Okay? Basically, no television cameras were allowed in the courtroom this time around. And by 1997, civil jury in Santa Monica unanimously found Simpson liable for the wrongful death and battery against Goldman and battery against Brown. The Brown family had not filed a wrongful death claim. Simpson was ordered to pay $33.5 million in damages, $8.5 million in compensatory damages to the Goldman family, and $12.5 million in punitive damages to each family. Okay? In February of 1999, an auction of Simpson's Heisman Trophy and other belongings netted almost $500,000, all of which went to the Goldman family to help collect some of that wrongful death money that they were promised. Okay. The Goldman family also tried to collect Simpson's NFL $28,000 yearly pension that they had given, but they failed to collect any money. In 1997, Simpson defaulted on his mortgage of his home, which he had lived in for 20 years, and the lender foreclosed on the property. 1998, the house was demolished by its next owner, Kenneth Abdallah, an investment banker and president of Jerry's famous deli chain. 2006, Goldman's father took Simpson back to court to obtain control over Simpson's right to publicity for purposes of satisfying the judgment in the court case. A federal judge in 2007 issued a restraining order prohibiting Simpson from spending any advance that he may have received on a canceled book called If I Did It, about the 1994 murders. The matter was dismissed before trial for lack of jurisdiction. 2007, and also about 2 weeks later, in late January of 2007, an additional restraining order was filed ordering Simpson to restrict his spending to ordinary and necessary living expenses. In March of 2007, a judge prevented Simpson from receiving any further compensation from the defunct book deal and TV interview, and the judge ordered the bundled book rights to be auctioned off. Okay. In August 2007, a Florida bankruptcy court awarded the rights of the book to the Goldman family to partially satisfy any unpaid civil judgment. Originally titled If I Did It, the book was renamed If I Did It, Confessions of the Killer, with the word if reduced in size to such an extent that it appears within the width of the large red I in the title, making the title appear to read I Did It, Confessions of the Killer. Okay. In June of 2022, Ron Goldman's father, Fred, alleged that court papers intended to keep the wrongful death and battery judgment viable that Simpson owed $96 million due to significant interest generated on the initial order to pay damages. Okay. He apparently, Simpson wound up owing. State of California claimed in 2007 that Simpson owed nearly $1.5 million in back taxes. Okay. Let's see. In the late 90s, Simpson attempted to register his phrase OJ Simpson, OJ, and the Juice as trademarks for a broad range of goods, including figurines, trading cards, sportswear, medallions, coins, and prepaid telephone cards. A concerned citizen sued to oppose the granting of the federal regulation on grounds that doing so would be immoral and scandalous. Simpson gave up the effort in 2000. He left California and settled in Miami, Florida. In Miami, Florida is actually one of the very few states out there where pensions and/or residences cannot generally be seized to collect debts. So he moved there in order to prevent any more confiscation of his property. Okay. He's also been in trouble many times before. In 2001, he yanked off the glasses off a motorist during a traffic dispute. He could have faced 16 years in prison, but he was acquitted. At the end of December, Simpson's Miami home was searched by the FBI under suspicion of SSC possession and money laundering. Okay. 2002, Simpson was arrested in Miami-Dade County for water speeding through a manatee protection zone and failing to comply with proper boating regulations. The misdemeanor charge was dropped. Simpson wound up getting fined. Okay. Simpson was accused in March 2004 by DirecTV in the Miami Federal Court of using illegal electronic devices to pirate its broadcast signals. Okay. Simpson was forced to. DirecTV was awarded a $25,000 judgment, and Simpson was also ordered to pay an additional $33,000 in attorney fees and costs. Okay. Now, for the big one. Okay. September 2007, a group of men led by Simpson entered a room at the Palace Station Hotel Casino, took sports memorabilia at gunpoint, which resulted in Simpson being questioned by police. Simpson admitted to taking the items, which he said had been stolen from him, but denied breaking into the hotel room. He also denied that he or anyone else had carried a gun. He was initially released after questioning. Heads up, there are surveillance cameras in that hotel. So he got caught lying on that one. 2 days later, Simpson got arrested, initially held without bail. I'm going to tell you right now about this, okay? OJ Simpson wound up losing a lot of, as a result of his payment problems, he was forced to pay a whole bunch of money to, in response to this wrongful death case from 1997. And he didn't actually, it wasn't officially stolen. It was actually seized from him as part of these deals. And now that other people had possession of it, Simpson wanted it back. These are like autographed footballs, autographed pictures, autographed jerseys. Like, these are things that he had signed autographs for throughout over the years. Okay? Before you know it, all of these things are showing up in storage lockers scattered throughout the San Francisco area. And they wind up showing up and then they wind up in the possession of somebody else after payment was defaulted on the storage units. Okay. Simpson was arrested, initially held without bail. He was in Las Vegas for a wedding, and then he found out right there that he was basically that his stuff was nearby, and he went to go claim it for himself. But he was basically slapped with a huge series of felony counts, including criminal conspiracy, kidnapping, assault, robbery, and using a deadly weapon. Bail is set at $125,000, and stipulations that Simpson had no contact with the co-defendants. Simpson was to have no contact with the co-defendants, and then he was to surrender his passport. Simpson did not enter a plea in this case. Okay. All three of Simpson's co-defendants had plea bargained with the prosecution in the Clark County courts in October of 2007. Okay. Simpson's preliminary hearing, he pleaded not guilty in November of 2007. The case would start in April of 2008, although it would not officially start until September to give the defense more time for their case. Okay, so the trial started September 8th, 2008 in Nevada District, before Nevada District Court Judge Jackie Glass and an all-white jury. I don't know why they mentioned that. Okay. In stark contrast to Simpson's earlier murder trial. On October 3rd, 2008, the Simpson and his co-defendant were all found guilty on all charges. Okay. On October 10th, Simpson's counsel moved for a new trial on the grounds of judicial errors and insufficient evidence, which eventually got denied. Simpson faced a possible life sentence with parole on the kidnapping charge and mandatory prison time for armed robbery. His sentencing came on December 5th, 2008, when Simpson was sentenced to a total of 33 years in prison, with the possibility of parole after 9 years. In 2017. September 2009, the Nevada Supreme Court denied a request for bail during Simpson's appeal. Okay. In October 2012, a Nevada judge agreed to reopen the armed robbery and kidnapping charges against OJ Simpson, determining if the former football star was so badly represented. A hearing was held in May of 2013, but eventually that was denied. Okay. July 31st, 2013, Nevada Parole Board granted Simpson parole on some convictions, but his imprisonment continued based on the weapons and assault convictions. The board considered Simpson's prior record of criminal convictions and good behavior in prison in coming to the decision. At the parole hearing on July 20th, 2017, the board decided to grant Simpson parole with certain parole conditions such as travel restrictions, non-contact with co-defendants from the robbery, non-drinking excessively. He was released on October 1st, 2017, having served almost 9 years. In December 2021, Simpson was officially released from parole early on good behavior. Okay? Which comes, okay? That was the last I had personally heard from OJ Simpson until until Thursday, April 11th, 2024. Simpson, when apparently in May of 2023, OJ Simpson, it was reported that he had been diagnosed with prostate cancer and expressed confidence that he would beat it. But in February 2024, it was reported that he was undergoing treatment for the cancer, and unfortunately, he would not survive. He died on April 10th, 2024, as announced by his family at the age of 76, and the family has asked for privacy during their time of grieving. Okay? So there's the lot. Okay, so one more thing I'd like to add. O.J. Simpson, all right, is let's see. Okay. O.J. Simpson, his number is officially retired with USC. All right. His number is not had yet to be retired by the Buffalo Bills. In fact, only 3 players in Buffalo Bills history had their numbers retired. The first was Jim Kelly, quarterback from 1986 to 1996, and then the number was retired in 2001. Next was Bruce Smith, number 78, who played for the Bills from 1985 to 1999. His number was retired in September of 2016. The most recent was number 34, Thurman Thomas, played for the Bills from 1988 to 1999. Retired his number October 30th, 2018. All right. Buffalo, even though O.J. Simpson is showing Buffalo Bills Wall of Fame, okay, his number 32 had been withdrawn from circulation, but not retired after O.J. Simpson. Former owner Ralph Wilson insisted on not reissuing the number even after Simpson's highly publicized murder case and later robbery conviction. The number would be placed back into circulation in 2019 with Cenorise Perry wearing the number that year. Practice squad cornerback Kyler McMichael was the last to wear the number. Okay. Okay. Other players who have served on the Wall of Fame include Jack Kemp, who played for the Bills during the 60s. He was Bob Dole's running mate in the 96 election against Bill Clinton. You have Ralph Wilson, who's the owner of the Bills. Marv Levy, who is head coach for the Bills and general manager. Jim Kelly. Thurman Thomas, Andre Reed, Bruce Smith. Van Miller, a longtime broadcaster of the Buffalo Bills. And Lou Saban, who had coached the Bills from 62 to 65 and also during O.J. Simpson's tenure from 72 to 76. All right. Another thing to mention is that he is also, O.J. Simpson is also, let's see. The Pro Football Hall of Fame. All right, that's one thing. He was inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame in 1983 and the NFL Hall of Fame in 1985. Okay. Now in college sports, we have had individuals who have had honors who have been stripped away for one reason or another. Okay, for example, Reggie Bush. He wound up surrendering his Heisman Trophy after USC got in trouble in the mid 2000s after giving him improper benefits. You also had Joe Paterno. There was a statue of him outside of Penn State's Beaver Stadium. Okay, that got taken down after the Sandusky scandals under the fear that it would be vandalized. Okay. Other people have had honors stripped away because of integrity issues or things they've committed. However, USC to date has not stripped OJ Simpson of his retired jersey or his Heisman Trophy win, despite everything that's happened. Also, the National Football League has not stripped OJ Simpson of his spot in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And there is a reason for it. National Football League there's a bylaw in there that once you are in there, you're in there for life. And nothing can, and there's nothing that nobody is allowed to be stripped of that honor once they have received it. Okay? So that's unfortunately an honor that, despite everything that's happened in the later years, something that has to stay in the books. All right? OJ's... shut up. Okay. These damn pop-ups. Anyway, we're going to finish things up with my stance on OJ, okay? Kind of do have a mixed view on him, okay? Yes, he was a great football player. He had a great success in the early years. It has been widely forgotten over the years. I remember in 1999, December 31st, 1999, the local CBS affiliate WIBB Channel 4 in Buffalo, they came out with a list of the 5 greatest athletes who have ever played for Buffalo in the 20th century. I don't recall what number 4 and 5 were, but OJ Simpson was at the very top of that list, beating out Jim Kelly, who took the Bills to 4 consecutive Super Bowls, and Dominic Hasek of the Buffalo Sabres, one of the greatest pretty much the greatest goaltender of the 90s. And part of the reason why the Sabres had huge success in the late 90s and helped lead the Sabres to their spot in the 1999 Stanley Cup Finals. Okay? And they say that he is no longer popular. Okay? His legacy still lives on, but unfortunately it's overlooked now based on his past convictions. And while I do not approve of what he has done in the later life, his early success is what makes him great. His later life has turned him into a bad guy. And even though we all know that OJ Simpson committed the murders and got away with double murder. And even though he had never been officially committed for it, and the Nevada courts, they sentenced him to jail for those robberies as a way to get back at him for that wrongful, as payback for that acquittal in 1995. Everything that Simpson has done especially the controversial stuff, is now between him and God. God will now have the final say in whether OJ Simpson gets to spend eternity in heaven, which most likely won't happen, or, in the more likely case, get to spend eternity in hell. Alright? I'm not the kind of person that likes to sit there and celebrate somebody dying, because it is entirely inappropriate, and it doesn't matter who it is. Okay? And everybody does have, they have the opportunity to receive fair judgment in the afterlife. I can definitely tell you right now, God, despite all the shit that's happened on Earth or in America in the last 30 years, God does not play any of that shit. He doesn't play to the race card. He doesn't, which is what was used to acquit him from the 94 trial. He also doesn't play favorites. He pops up the book. He sees what you've done. And if he really did commit those murders, like we all suspect he did, that is a violation of the 5th commandment in the Bible. Thou shalt not kill. That by itself, right, would earn him eternity in hell. Okay? But it's all up to God now. And all we have left are is the legacy that he left behind. And it's up to us to debate that after everything that's been played, whether from his football career to his trials and his troubling behavior, whether or not he will go down in the book as a legend or a sham. Until the next time we meet, Mr. Wildcat here reminding you all to be good, be careful, and behave.